wow, I guess my Wi-Fi just decided to crash out on me, and I realized that my Wi-Fi just decided to crash out on me because chat wasn't updating, and I was like, what is happening? That's not good. Yeah. I just was like, I didn't know what was happening. But I think we're okay now. My Wi-Fi is usually pretty solid. I have never had issues with it before because we got Wi-Fi extenders not too long ago, and I tested it when I moved in, and I'm like right next to the router. So, what's going on there? But well, I think we're back. I think we're good now. I genuinely do not know when have I just been freaking talking to myself this whole time? Because I was just talking. And then I checked on I switched on my phone. I switched to data, and it said my stream crashed out like before, like less than 10 minutes in. And I was like, I've definitely been streaming for nearly 30 minutes now. Well, have I just been talking to myself the whole time? But I suppose I have. Yeah, I don't know when it crashed out. Did anyone even get my entire spiel about how I'm a serial non-finisher of games? Did anyone hear that? Did that ever happen? Did that even happen? Did that survive? Knows anymore. I don't. But it looks like my Wi-Fi is okay now. Everything appears functioning. Everything appears to be functioning normally. So hopefully we're good now. So I can't really say much about my audio quality. It's probably pretty garbage. I've put up some sound foam, but it's still a wood floor, and also it might just be my microphone in general. I'm not entirely sure. I should put up more sound foam, so I will be doing. And the computer, I'm still running it off my other computer, which is honestly the better computer. Which is the better computer I have. It's my regular PC. So I'm like, okay. I've definitely streamed off of this before and had zero problems. But I guess everything is deciding to have problems now. Which I guess is simply how it is. And I'm gonna try and live with it. And now I have to like remember again where I was at. Build. I'm still working on the arms, and I find the runner. I think is that the gold runner? I don't think. No, it's fun. Ooh. We're just gonna pop the box onto here because, as always, as it is with me, my runner organization is non-existent. Come on. As always, my runner organization is non-existent. Every day I tell myself I'm gonna print a runner organizer, and I never do. Someday I will, though. Whoa. Because they're like stupid easy to design. I can just model one myself, and then I just have to print it somewhere, which I have so many places I can print, that I can 3D print, even though I no longer work with a manufacturer that has No. I don't really like that this is like silver plated. That this is just regular plastic but painted silver. Like when I pinch it off and it leaves a stress mark, the stress marks are bad. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe this. When I snip off a little part of it, stress mark is darker. I have no idea if this will mildly. Oh, it comes through a little bit. Like you see this dark spot. It does come through a tiny bit. Oh, so dry. God, my hand. Like, my hands look like I'm an old lady. Like, I promise I'm not an old. I'm a dry young. Yeah, I was trying. See, I can't even do the thing that I usually do. Stress marks, like they kind of just. I can't even do what I usually do. Stress marks. That's just like slowly kind of sand it down. But I can't. I can't do that because the more I sand down, the more it strips off the silver. Like, the problem is worse now. So I'm kind of just, either way. Which sucks, but simply how it is. Anyhow, hopefully everything's going to be okay. This? Oh! Here. Kinda cool. Oh! Wow! Wow, this is cool. We're gonna back out a little. Oh. This is kind of similar to when I was building RX-78 Mark II. It also had, I think this is the first time I've seen kind of little piping mechanics since I built Mark II. I'm sure there's probably other kits that do something similar, but the only ones that I've built, master grades I've built that had this, are Barbatos and Mark II. None of the other master grades I've built really has anything like this. Where it's got the little pipes built in so that when the joints are moving, you can the internal, like the silver pipes, like the hydraulics, which is so sick. I think that's so cool that you get you build in the little hydraulics. I think that's such a neat little. I'm supposed to build two. I should do the other one. Or I forget, because I always forget. But I will not forget. I will not forget. But anyhow, we love structural support. Yeah, we love structural support. For structural support stands here. Love when things are built to stand. Build another, but that's simply how arms work. Man, I can't believe, I think that entire little I did about unfinished media just did not. Man, I love trusses. Yeah. Who doesn't, brother? Who doesn't? We all love trusses in this house. Yeah, where's my shoutouts for static analysis? I bet they done this. It's fine. Static truss analysis kind of sucks, but it's not that bad. I think I just had. I think my professor for statics, not good. So I had a bad time. Because my statics professor was for some reason a programming professor. Not to say that people can't be good at multiple things, but this guy was not good at multiple things. He was a programming professor. For some reason, they had him teaching statics, because I guess it is like... But this man he was bad at teaching programming, which is what he mainly was. Programming professor. When they teach you that Zero Force members are members of Zero Force. Real and true. Wow. But yeah, my statics was a guy who was technically a programming professor who wasn't even good at teaching programming. He later then got fired from my university because he sucked so bad that, no joke, a bunch of students put together a petition to get rid of him. He was that bad, which I agree with. That guy sucked. That guy sucked. I hated him. He was the kind of professor where, there's I don't know how normal this is, but I feel like it's a pretty normal college professor thing to do. Call students by their last name instead of their first name. And so he was one of those professors that would call students by their last names, but not female students. Female students, he always called by first name, which just felt icky. Something about it just felt slimy, because he would be calling out people, and it'd be like, oh, Smith, Johnson, or whatever the hell people's last names are. I'm just using placeholders. And then for girls, he's like, okay, Mary, okay, Julia, and it just felt icky. It felt like a lack of respect for female students, because it's not like he taught that many of them. He mostly taught high-level engineering programming, of which there are not that many girls in these classes. And so out of I remember out of a class of 25 to 30 people, there's 3 or 4 girls, including myself. And it was just everyone he'd call by last name except for the 3 or 4 female students in that class. And it just felt wrong. And he always did that. Anyway, he got fired. Sucked. Anyway, he got fired. So screw that guy. He would also oh my god, actively grade. I'm not even joking. One of my friends was like, what if we just turned had her and one of our friends, the guy, and what if we just turn in the same homework basically and see how he grades us? And he literally graded her worse for the same work. It was insane. It was insane. I was like, no way. Yeah, this guy sucks. And he got fired, and that was who my statics professor was. Statics professor kind of just sucked. And then later, when I was revisiting statics to continue on, I was like, statics isn't actually that hard. It wasn't that bad. I just had a terrible professor. Who didn't know how to teach even the subject that he's supposed to be good at, let alone the subject that's not his primary expertise. So, lesson learned. Well, more like lesson not learned. But anyhow, in this house, we love learning that a Zero Force member is a member of Zero Force. And also, I am terminally bad at finishing things. I think that's part of why I haven't gotten through all of... That might also be part of why I haven't gotten through all of Timeline Gundam. Just because, I think it's one of those things, okay, I like when things have endings. I like when there's a clearly defined ending. I hate when things go on just for the sake of going on and continuing. I want stories to have a clearly defined narrative arc and a narrative goal, and then once it finishes that narrative goal, it stops soon after. It is like the bane of my like the amount I as you may know, I do have terminal webtoon addiction. I read so many like garbage romance isekais. It's bad. It's bad. I know this. I know this about myself. I recognize this. Okay. But I read a lot of them, right? And the amount of times I like have read a manhwa and I'm like, okay, we have reached the narrative conclusion. This is great. We're living. Things are going fine. And then it like it like finishes what I felt like it was supposed to, what they wanted to finish. And then it's going. And it like destroys the characters in the process. And I'm like, how could you do this to me? Why would you do this to me? Yeah, we hate drama for drama's sake. There was one that I quite liked. There's one that I quite liked that started out as like a mystery fantasy, like, you know, the love interest was like a detective and he's trying to figure out like funky mystery. That's how he meets the main character who got isekai'd, and she's like a suspect, but like the person she got isekai'd into is the suspect. She herself is like just a normal person, you know, and it was like kind of cool, and they were setting up this like really interesting like mystery concept of like find out that like, okay, maybe even the person she got isekai'd into, maybe like she might not have actually done it even though she was the main suspect. And you know, it was kind of cool and interesting, and you know, the story happened, they solved the mystery, the main lead like get together, it was cool and fun, and then they add in this entire like plot line about her inheriting this like magic based like, it was like a position of power. I think she was like inheriting, like, turns out she's actually the long lost daughter of this like super powerful wizard. Oh my god. And it just like, oh my god, it just devolved. It was awful. And then like all the characters just broke down. Like the characters just stopped making sense. And I'm like, someone needs to take her out back. Please, I'm begging you. And I was so sad because I really liked the story for the most part. I thought it was quite good. I thought it was a fun little mystery that they set up, and I was like, okay, we're doing good. And then they just like finished the story, and then it wasn't done, and I was very sad. Because the story that I liked has now been supremely ruined. And it's not even the only time that's happened to me. It happens quite often and upsetting every time. Yeah, I need this runner. And so, yeah, I love when stories have clear defined endings and they end when it makes sense to, right? I always love that. But also, I am a serial non-finisher. The horse speed death, I'll never get over that. One webtoon that literally fumbled right at the end. Yeah! I absolutely hate when that happens. Where it's like doing so good and then it fumbles right at the end by just like inventing some like, some literal nonsense just to like screw everything. I forgot which one it was. I think it's one that you recommended to me. Or it might have been one. I remember it was one that, I'm pretty sure it's one that we both read. I remember talking about it. And it was like something happened where the main character, like, just they just like completely, for whatever reason, just decided to like make her a horrible person for no reason. Like at the very end of the story. Like, it was so close to finishing. It was really sweet. It was really good. Yeah, no, I didn't recommend it because it made me angry. I've definitely told you. Yeah. You've definitely told me. Or it just fumbles right at the end. And I'm like, how would you do this? But I remember there was one that we both read where it just like, character assassinates the main character. Where she just started like getting involved in other people's business when she did. Because I think she already was like pretty headstrong. That was already like a defined character trait of hers. And I feel like she just like started doing that made no sense. It was like so sad because the story was pretty good up till that point. And then at the very end, it just like decided to character assassinate the main character for some reason. And I'm like, okay, I guess. I guess that's what's happening. But, yeah. Sucks. It makes me sad. But, and thus, I like when things have nice, clearly defined endings that make sense. But for some reason, I'm a serial non-finisher of things. Like, I can't quite understand it. Like, there's some things, some pieces of media that I'll just, like, absolutely blink through. Yeah. I mean, but the one I'm thinking of is she got transmigrated and got into a contract marriage with a dude to protect him from having to marry. You say that does not narrow it down. That's all of them. They're all about contract marriages with dukes so that they don't have to marry. Selfish actress, also from her world, who is trying to marry the duke. That's the kind of person she is. I think I remember this one, actually, where it's like the two people who got transmigrated. And, okay, I think I do recall you telling me about this. And it just fumbles at the very end. So upsetting. So upsetting. Every time. But yeah, there are some that I will just like absolutely through. And like no breaks. I just absolutely like whip through something. No problem, no hesitation, and I finish it. Like that's and then the fumble. Like that's what happened with me in Breath of the Wild. Like I like that game. I just like I literally played that game nonstop until I finished. I was like, I love this game. It's good. And I just like got straight through there and just finished the game. And I've since replayed the game, like the story campaign, like 3 times. And also just like played the game in general several times. Like I just open the game and explore a lot. Like I have several hundred hours in Breath of the Wild just from running around and playing the game. And yet for some reason in Tears of the Kingdom, I got through almost the entire story campaign. I think the only thing I haven't done is finishing like the Master Sword Dragon quest and fighting Ganon. Then the fumble where it's at the very end and the Duke really been his love, and then our FL just turns him down the marriage proposal because she didn't make it grand enough, and she's acting like the same actress that they ousted and criticized. Yeah, I remember you telling me about this, and I'm like, girl, why? I hate when they just character assassinate. They just fumble. Character assassinate them at the very end. I'm like, why would you do this? Why? It's literally the worst. Which is why it's good when it, ends it before it like itself and dies, And so yeah, and yet with Tears of the Kingdom, I just haven't finished it. I literally pre-ordered the game and I've been playing it since the day it came. I took off. It's really fun. I took a day off of work on the day I don't work there anymore, so it's okay. It doesn't matter if I say this on the internet. I literally took a day off of work so that I could play Tears of the Kingdom on the day that it came out. And that's exactly what I did. I spent the entire day playing Tears of the Kingdom because I literally took that day off so I could play the game. I love Tears of the Kingdom. It's not that I think it's a bad game. I know a lot of people don't like it compared to Breath of the Wild. They think Breath of the Wild is better, which I think in some aspects it is, but I do really like Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe I'm just biased because I'm an engineer and I like that I can build things, and I've been having a lot of fun just making contraptions. I think it's great, but I don't know, man. It's not even just this, I know I get hate for this regularly, but I have yet to finish season 2 of Witcher Mercury. Okay, and I also haven't watched everything in East Timeline. I think the biggest thing that I haven't watched yet is War in the Pocket, which I feel like, as a Char fan, I gotta. I haven't watched a bunch of the movies actually. That a lot of the like UC Timeline I haven't watched. I know a lot of them are like spin-offs, but a lot of them I haven't watched. And so, it just feels. Design class. Did you have a question? Did you have a hard time getting some of your ideas greenlit? Yes. Yeah. I'm assuming I don't want to name drop them, but on the public internet, but I'm assuming you have the same 2 advisors that have always advised you to design. We're gonna call them, I'm not gonna use placeholder names. Professor, I guess if I use like personage, Professor B and Professor L, they're the same ones who advise it. Yeah, 100%. It was so different. Like, sometimes they would just reject things. Sometimes they would just reject things. They're very thorough. At least, I mean, it depends on. Okay, it depends on the advisor, because I think they kind of just get attached to the ideas that they liked. 'Cause I remember for me, Professor V just didn't really care about our idea that much. It was mostly Professor L that was really our advisor. No, there's new advisors now. That's kind of crazy. I'm kind of curious now who the advisors for Season 9 are. One who taught fluids and one who taught vibrations. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like them. I mean, hopefully, but I do recall it being pretty difficult just to get things greenlit. I think they might be harsher too. If they're new advisors, they might be a little extra harsh too. But I remember, even when I was doing Season 9 with the old advisors, they expected so much documentation and so much you had to super convince them of stuff. It was crazy. But I suppose that just makes sense. My team got a basic robot arm greenlit. That's pretty cool. I think my group specifically was doing aerospace. We had an aerodynamic space project, and the top was like, yeah, it's whatever your project is, man. That's so fun. Yeah. Well, I guess that's whatever your project is. Did they just not? Okay, wait. is your problem that they're not being super, like... Because I think it kind of depends on the professor. Like, Professor V, like, did not care even a little. Like, he did care because he's the advisor, but he really didn't care that much about our project. Professor L was probably the one who was more into it. Or no, I mean, he was pretty into it too. I think it was the opposite for me, actually. It took me... I thought we would be more scrutinized. Yeah. I guess different advisors do differently. But I just remember being, like, super scrutinized. I was like, why is this so difficult? But I think it's also, like, I think when I did it, we were still, like, fresher out of COVID. And I think budgetary restrictions, because they were like, okay, guys, before you start spending money, please, you gotta make sure it's actually gonna work. You gotta make sure this is actually gonna work before you start spending our dollars. And I'm like, I guess that does make some amount of sense. You know? It does make an amount of sense. This thing. Oh wait, no. This is a separate. This, I have to, this is this thing. I have to go get that other piece. I can attach it to that. I guess it depends. That's kind of funky though. I know he is pretty chill. It is also just like, I think the two professors that used to advise it were very uptight people in general. And Lude's professor is just a really chill guy. Is a pretty chill guy. So I feel like maybe there's a little more chill. But for the most part, senior design is also supposed to be like, yeah, we were pretty like heavily scrutinized, but it's more like they just wanted us to have things very thought out. They wanted us to be like very thorough with everything we did. But for the most part, it's still like an independent project. It's not like they were telling us how to do things and what we had to do. They were just like, be more specific, put more thought into it, try harder, like do more stuff to make sure that you know things are going to work out. Even a little bit. Like, not that they were like, it wasn't that they were like, okay, this idea is stupid, don't do it. It was more like, if you want to do this idea, you have to like go through all of these steps to make sure it's actually gonna work. You know, like there was a group in my senior design batch that had, I will not lie to you, a pretty stupid idea. That had a kind of a stupid idea. I mean, cares. This is not my circus, not my monkeys. Their idea was basically like a fire-resistant box. Which, okay, I think conceptually it wasn't that bad, because it was like, okay, yeah, fire safety. It had to do with fire safety, right? And so I'm like, I think the problem they were addressing was people who charge like lithium-ion batteries like in their homes, like mostly for like motorized scooters and stuff like that. Because technically you're not supposed to charge those in your home. It's a massive fire hazard because those can just catch on fire, and if that's in your house burns down. You're supposed to charge them outside. It's like why you don't. Also, like, I mean, obviously you can't have a vehicle on the inside, but like electric vehicles charge outside because those batteries are a fire hazard. Charging those batteries is a fire hazard. And so, but a lot of people will charge like scooter batteries inside, which is bad. And you know, they catch on fire, and there's a lot of house fires that result from that regularly. And so they wanted to address that, which I think is pretty valid. That is a real problem that exists in the world, and it's fair to like address fire safety, specifically when it comes to lithium-ion batteries. But I will not lie to you, their actual methodology was just kind of stupid. They're like, okay guys, what we do is for people that want to charge their lithium-ion batteries inside their homes, just put a box over it. Just we're gonna design a box to go over the battery so that if it catches on fire, the fire won't spread. And it's because it's literally like a box. You just slap it on, because the thing is, it's not like you put the battery in the box. It's like a cover. It's like a cloche, basically. If you know what a cloche. You know, like when you're putting something in the microwave and you put the little cover over it, the little splash guard on it. It's exactly like that, except it's a box. And instead of put it in your microwave to prevent your soup from exploding, you put it over a lithium-ion battery to prevent your house from burning down. And immediately, my first thought is like, what about the floor? What about the floor? Because the box itself was like, like fire retardant metal and super thick and reinforced. Okay, I get that. And it's also supposed to have like some form of like fire extinguishing going on. But a lithium-ion battery fire, even after you extinguish it, is still going to be really hot. And also, like, I think they end up getting rid of the I mean, it's a senior design project. You can't do everything. But theoretically, I was also just like, what about the floor? The floor isn't made of fire retardant metal. What if it burns through the floor? What then? What then, basically? And I was just like, listen. And so the professors, like, didn't really say a lot about it. They're kind of just like, listen, guys, make sure your documentation and your calculations and everything are extensive and thorough, and they wouldn't let people, like, continue on. Floors are just upside down ceiling. Exactly. And they, like, wouldn't greenlight continuing things without, like, people being in depth and, like, being able to prove that their idea is, like, viable. But if your idea is stupid, they're, like, not gonna stop you. If your idea is stupid, they're not gonna stop you. As long as you can back it up and you put in the requisite effort and the documentation and the calculation, everything. Like, they won't stop you if your senior design idea. And so, yeah, I just, man, I feel a little bad making fun of these guys in my senior design class. But listen, if they did I'm pretty sure they passed senior design. They've all graduated. So the people that made this are out in the world as engineers now. If that provides any confidence in the world that that the people who were their senior engineering thesis was like, what if I just make a cloche butt for lithium-ion battery fires? You know? Ideas. And then also they're like, there's like supposed to be some form of like fire extinguishing that goes on in there, but they like didn't quite figure out the hydraulics for it and where the pipes would go. It's also like, okay, you want to pipe liquid coolant in there to extinguish the fire, right? But you're gonna put the pipes on the box that's holding the fire, and thus it's going to be really, really hot, even if you use fire retardant metal, right? it could only insulate so much. Was that the same guy who exploded a battery in the club room? Honestly, I think so. Honestly, I think so. It very well could have been that guy. I think it might have been. And I just thought it was, you know. And they did put in like the requisite effort. Not that they did put in the effort. They did, you know, put in the designs, and they did go through like extensive design process and went through all the calculations and presented their findings and did all that stuff. They did pass senior design. But they did also think it was a good idea to put pipe liquid coolant on the outside of a box that gets really hot. And also just like have a tank of coolant attached to it, because it's got to come from somewhere. It was a time, you know. I think their idea was kind of doomed to start, but none of my business. They've long since graduated, and they're out there in the world as engineers. So, you know, I think the lesson to learn from this is that C's do get degrees, you know? And, oh yeah, by the way, like, oh my god, I just remember, because this is also like around when ChatGPT getting big, and I swear to god, like, entire presentation was ChatGPT. I was like, they had like blocks of text on all of their like midterm and final presentations, and I was reading it and I'm like, there's no way you people wrote this. It was just like so obvious that they just ChatGPT'd their entire presentations. I'm like, yeah, I guess this is the future of engineering, you know? And so yeah, that is indeed the future of engineering. Are engineers who graduated from COVID University with a minor in ChatGPT. So, moral of the story is that the world will all burn down. No, I'm kidding. I think it's fine. People are just gonna be... Hello, hello! Thank you for joining. I honestly forgot where any of this came from. Where this entire tangent even came from. But yeah, I hope that inspires confidence. I think it's very funny because I did mechanical aerospace. Literally, my friends love saying whenever I do something stupid, which is quite often, they're like, man, you're the person who's going to be designing airplanes. And I'm like, sure I am. Listen, you can be stupid in some things and still know how to do math, you know? So there are some people that I went to school with that I look at and I'm like, to quote one of my professors, I'm concerned for the future of engineering. When everything started being in person again, one of the first professors I had since then were like, because a bunch of like the prerequisite classes for this class done online, and a lot of us were like in the same classes. My professor was straight up like, after looking at our first test scores, he was genuinely like, I'm concerned for the future of engineering. Why do you guys not know any of the basic physics? What's happening? And we're just like, listen, we learned all of this online. All of this, every exam, and our professor didn't know how to teach. So, we don't know anything, actually. But in reality, I feel like most things you actually do when you start working has like not really anything to do with what you learn in school. Like getting an engineering degree is important because you have to learn a lot of these fundamentals. Like there's no getting around it. You just have to know fundamentals. But in actual practice, you don't actually do a lot of this. A lot of what you need to know, you learn while you're on the job. Like when you start working, you learn what you need while you're working. And that's just, you learn a lot of what you need to learn working. So getting the engineering degree means that you are going to be better at learning things because you theoretically have the fundamental knowledge already that prepares you to learn how to actually be an engineer. But, I say, as if everyone here knows exactly how this. I don't know how this. I really don't. Okay. Thinking if I have to print anything. Everything I need to print. Pack up. I have to pack up my laptop. Oh, tasks and work. I think, and never mind. It's too late for me to talk about what I've learned in therapy so far. It's too late for me to talk about what I've learned in therapy, I think. But I've been learning often. C6. I would highly recommend it. But anyhow, to all of you engineering students, Godspeed. Look, it's tough out there. And I think you got this. And you know what? Maybe I will finish Switch from Mercury. Yeah, I will finally finish Mercury. Because, I don't know, because I was gonna say, maybe part of why I don't like ending things is like, I don't like when things end. And I was like, no, I like when things end. I like when things have an ending. This way. It does. This thing, and then I connect it down. That it's got the little arm pipe, even though it is saying that there is just a really obnoxious stress mark there, and I can't really do about it. Gray plastic, plus when I cut the plastic, and even if I sand it down, it makes it worse. So that is simply the life we are living. So I think I will, not right now, maybe in like 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, I will be heading out. Because I have to have time to get ready and go. I have to have time to get ready and go. I don't want to be late. But we'll be putting them together. What else I've been doing? I went to go see a movie with my brother this week. Pretty fun. I love that my siblings are now old enough that I can just like hang out with them Okay, and then I grab another. Yeah, I love that my siblings are old enough now that I can like actually hang out with them. I went to go see a movie with my brother and I had a great time. I had a great time. It also helps that my siblings have a lot of the same things. They like a lot of the same things I do because, you know, they grew up watching a lot of the things that I like, and thus they just like a lot of the same things I do. Pretty neat. I think I've seen people talk about how having like opposite personalities and opposite things with their siblings. I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like me and my brothers are very similar. That's because a lot of like their interests and things. I mean, of course they're unique. They both have like things that they like themselves that are, you know, things that they developed by themselves, which makes sense. We're all different people, but I don't think we're like that. I don't think we're like that different from each other. We all get along really well, enough that they're like, I don't know, man. I feel like I like that I can like actually be friends with my siblings are still like their personalities and their interests are within the range of like people I would normally be friends with. And I think a good chunk of it is because I like a lot of my siblings' interests kind of came from me. Did I do this backward? Grab this one. I don't think so. Okay. Wait. But lining up the way I think. Not the same orientation. I think things have gone wrong somewhere here. Okay. Back here. Okay. Got this spot. Oh, I was just looking at the wrong part, actually. I'm not stupid. I was just looking at the wrong one. I'm fine, actually. Everything. Okay. Fine. Arm. Arm is happening. It's all coming together. Yeah. I went to go see a movie with my brother. It was pretty sick. My siblings and I, we all get along with each other really well. We all have very similar interests. And I think a lot of it is because they just like consumed a lot of the things that I liked when I was growing up. Like, I've literally joked about this before, but I feel a little bad for giving. So my youngest brother is the one who's into anime. My middle brother isn't really. Like, he's seen a little bit, but he's not like really an anime person. But my youngest brother is. And I feel a little bad for giving him the anime taste of someone who's 10 years older. Because a lot of the shows that he's watched and he likes are not even remotely close to like shows that his peers watch and enjoy, you know? And so he's like, I tried going to my school's anime club and everyone just wanted to talk about My Hero Academia and Jujutsu Kaisen. And he's like, I don't care about any of those. And I'm like, I'm sorry for doing this to you. I'm sorry for doing this to you. Like, I want to talk about Full Metal Alchemist and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. You know, he's also like a teenager. And, you know, talks about things the way a teenager would. And I just thought it was very funny. And I'm like, well, I guess that is my fault. Because a lot of the stuff that he watches is just stuff that I watch, that you watched with me. And so that's how it is. But I went to go see the newest movie from Naoko Yamada with him this week, which is a movie that I've been wanting to watch for a while. Naoko Yamada is one of my favorite directors of all time. Yeah, your middle brother is shockingly based. Yeah, my middle brother, I love my middle brother. I mean this completely affectionately. He is a 45-year-old man in a teenager's body. It's really funny. It's really funny. No, he's more into like video games and stuff. He's very much like a more traditional like sci-fi kind of guy. Like he's super into like Star Wars and Star Trek and that kind of stuff, and like Doctor Who. He's very into like video games and sci-fi and stuff. Like he play I see him playing Rainbow Six Siege a lot. But that's what my middle brother is like. Yeah, at least it suits him. It does. I feel like it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense that he's like that. It makes a lot of sense. But the thing is, it's like, I'm really into sci-fi and stuff like that. I think part of why my brother got into that is because when I was like in middle school, I was like, that's when I was like really getting into stuff like Doctor Who and Star Wars. And I really love I still like Doctor Who and Star Wars and like Western sci-fi and stuff like that. Like I've read a lot of like Asimov and like classic sci-fi. I grew up reading a lot of like classic sci-fi and stuff like that. And I really liked it. And I still do. And my brother, when I was getting into like Doctor Who and Star Wars and like Western sci-fi and stuff, I like, you know, he just also got exposed to it because I had to take care of my brothers a lot. And so they just ended up doing a lot of things that I wanted to do because I was the oldest. And if I say we're watching Doctor Who, that's what we're doing. That's simply what we're doing. So I was still forced to watch a lot of Thomas. Like, I was forced to watch so much Thomas the Tank Engine growing up that I can still sing the theme song to this day. Terrible. But, but even my middle brother, who's not really into anime and stuff, is still really into sci-fi, and still is like a huge nerd type, which is still similar to me, you know? I feel like I see like the branch. I mean, maybe it's a little bit egotistical of me, but I do in fact see the branching pathway of the direct influence of like exposing my brother to this stuff when he was really young through what I was into, and now it kind of just like branched out and evolved into like who he is now, you know? You won't get DMCA'd. No, what if we get... And also, I won't sing it, but also, I have PTSD of it. I won't do that to you guys. I will not. Maybe someday, if this channel gets monetized, I'll do a karaoke stream, and I'm just going to sing the Thomas the Tank Engine theme for 2 hours straight. That's gonna be the stream if we ever get monetized. And that is less of a reward and more of a punishment for you. Because they couldn't possibly DMCA me for singing the Thomas the Tank Engine theme song. But his family, if not spreading your influence with your quirks. Yeah, exactly. And I think part of why I kind of started having this idea about my siblings and their interests is, one, one, I see like the pathway like directly. Like a lot of my, just like how I talk to my brothers and what they talk to me about. Like my brothers still ask me for like recommendations on things, and they still talk to me about things that they like. So I see that dark pathway, but also one of my other friends that I went to college with has an older brother that has the same age difference between me and my middle brother. And he's straight up like, oh yeah, a lot of the things that I like are because my brother liked it, or because my brother liked it. You know? It's kind of just like what happens a lot with younger siblings, that they tend to mirror their older siblings a lot. So I'm like, it actually makes a lot of sense between me and my brothers. And yeah, what is family if not spreading your influence with your quirks? That really is how it is. Okay. Before I launch into making the armor frame, we, I think, are going to wrap up now so that I can leave within an appropriate time frame and on time for Fight Guild. For work today. So sorry for if I wasn't having internet issues, I would have, in fact, this would have been a normally timed stream. But a normal length stream, at least, if my Wi-Fi just didn't decide to crash out for some reason. But hopefully, I don't know, I think it kind of just fixed itself, because I've literally never had issues with the Wi-Fi before. It's always been pretty consistent. I've done Wi-Fi tests, but I guess it just crashed out, and I lost a good chunk of stream time, and that's simply how it is. But I think it's fixed itself. But as always, I shall be back next week to continue Barbatos. We will continue the arms. I was just about to start, now that the arms, like the inner frames are put together, I was about to start doing the armor parts on the arms. That's what I'll pick back up with next week. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and all next week. Bye-bye!